thoughts within. Our pilgrim feet, wet with thy dew, in gladness hither turn again. From hand to hand the greeting flows, from eye to eye the signals run. From heart to heart the bright hope glows. The seekers of the light are one. One in the freedom of the truth, one in the joy of paths untrod, one in the soul's perennial youth, one in the larger thought.
Your internet connection is unstable. It's the same as
The freer step, the fuller breath, the wide horizon, grander view, the sense of life that knows no death, the life that maketh all things new.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Stengel, and I am co-chair of our Sunday Services Ministry. Welcome to this virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. We're so glad that each of you are able to join us this morning, and together in community, we can ensure that social distancing does not mean social disengagement. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies. It is the forming of a sacred time that we make together. Whether you're well-versed in the technology of teleconferencing or this is your first venture, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our website and Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and share out to others who may be isolated at this time and might benefit from the spiritual connection that is typically available by walking through our open doors on Sunday morning. We have a few announcements this morning. Religious education classes for children and youth take place on Zoom every Sunday. Different time for different age groups. You can see on your screen. You can contact Sierra Marie for more information. And also, Sequoia Low has a group for young adults of UUCD to join in conversation, spirituality, and social action every Sunday at noon in the UUCD Zoom room. It's designed for ages 18 to 25, but all are welcome. And you can contact Sequoia for more information. We also have our online guidelines. Your lines will be muted as you come on so that we can optimize the audio for the speakers. You can choose your view, speaker view or gallery view that you change on your side of the connection. At times we'll have text on the screen, just like other times we have the video panes. You can chat to Margaret Henderson privately in the chat window if you have any questions or technical issues. And if you have any feedback on the process of the service, we ask that you please save that and not to put into the chat window, but rather send us an email after the service. Again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in the spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service. And today, we welcome Reverend Bruce Taylor as our service presenter. Reverend Taylor attended Andover Newton Theological School and was ordained to ministry in 2009. Bruce has ministered to congregations in Billerica, Ashby, Theominster, and Wakefield, Massachusetts. He lives in Nashua, New Hampshire with his beloved wife, Loretta Hubley, an artist. And in his free time, he likes to play the flute, do creative photography, and walk in the woods.
Good morning, everybody. Our opening words are from Dorothy McRae McMahon. In the face of all our realities, we are the people who heal each other, who grow strong together, who name the truth, who know what it means to live in community, moving towards a common dream for a new heaven and a new earth in the power of love and the leading of the Spirit.
Now is the time for lighting of our chalice. I invite each of you to light your own candle or chalice if you have. And for safety's sake, we will do the lighting first and then the words, which I invite you to join in with me. All right, now for our words. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And I invite all the young and young at heart to join me in the children's affirmation. We'll put our U's high up in the sky. And we are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. And now Reverend Bruce will bring a story for all ages.
Our story for all ages this morning is titled, Guess How Much I Love You. Little Nut Brown Hare, who was going to bed, held on tight to Big Nut Brown Hare's very long ears. He wanted to be sure that Big Nut Brown Hare was listening. Guess how much I love you, he said. Oh, I don't think I could guess that, said Big Nut Brown Hare. This much, said Little Nut Brown Hare, stretching out his arms as wide as they could go. Big Nut Brown Hare had even longer arms. But I love you this much, he said. That's a lot, thought Little Nut Brown Hare. I love you as high as I can reach, said Little Nut Brown Hare. I love you as high as I can reach, said Big Nut Brown Hare. That is very high, thought Little Nut Brown Hare. I wish I had arms like that. Then Little Nut Brown Hare had a good idea. He tumbled upside down and reached up the tree trunk with his feet. I love you all the way up to my toes, he said. And I love you all the way up to your toes, said Big Nut Brown Hare, swinging him up over his head. I love you high as I can hop, laughed Little Nut Brown Hare, bouncing up and down. But I love you as high as I can hop, smiled Big Nut Brown Hare, and he hopped so high that his ears touched the branches above. That's good hopping, thought Little Nut Brown Hare. I wish I could hop like that. I love you all the way down the lane as far as the river, cried Little Nut Brown Hare. I love you across the river and over the hills, said Big Nut Brown Hare. That's very far, thought Little Nut Brown Hare. He was almost too sleepy to think any more. Then he looked beyond the thorn bushes, out into the big dark night. Nothing could be farther than the sky. I love you right up to the moon, he said, and closed his eyes. Oh, that's far, said Big Nut Brown Hare. That is very, very far. Big Nut Brown Hare settled Little Nut Brown Hare into his bed of leaves. He leaned over and kissed him good night. Then he lay down close by and whispered with a smile, I love you right up to the moon and back. Let's join now and sing to our children, This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I do not go, I'm gonna send my light. Everywhere I do not go, I'm still gonna send my light. Everywhere I do not go, still gonna send my light. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Even when online, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
At this time, I would like to invite each of you to bring forward any joys, sorrows, or other personal milestones that you wish to share in this beloved community. You may type them into the chat box while Jerry plays for us. It is now time for our offering. I would like to share this morning, with you words by the Reverend Heather Christensen. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. We will now display on your screen the information on how you can financially support this congregation. To facilitate online offerings, a link will be posted in the chat window. Also, information is presented on screen for Arc for Peace to help support the larger Danbury community struggling at this time. Nancy Hirschadter will share a song with us.
Wisdom is greater than knowledge. It's knowledge grounded in compassion. It represents a bridge between the worldly and the sacred. Many people have taken wisdom to be an aspect of God. Some have personified wisdom and given her a human face, a feminine face. Our images of divinity provide a way to stand in relationship with something that lies beyond our ken. And the gods we create may be like our parents, writ large. Father watching over us, mother close by, nourishing, comforting. Feminine images are prominent in the ancient earth-centered religions. But the divine feminine appears also in patriarchal religions of various kinds, like an outcropping of ancient rock, conspicuous evidence of a deeper layer. I once went on retreat at a Cistercian monastery. I took part in the daily prayers of the monks, including Compline, which marks the end of the day and the transition into the great silence of sleep. The monks sing their hymns to God, asking God to watch over them. And then they gather around Mary and they sing to her. Grown men, some in their 50s, some in their 80s, but still not so different from little boys. they bid their mother good night. They have called upon their Father God for protection, but they need more than that. They need to be held close. I have encountered the feminine face of God in a Cistercian monastery, and I have met her in the Hebrew Bible too. That scripture contains many voices, many different views of human nature and its relation to the sacred. Along with the predominantly male image of God, there is the female symbol, Chokmah, wisdom. Woman wisdom appears in the book of Proverbs, a collection of wise sayings. The original purpose of this collection was to teach young men how to live, and some of the sayings are well known and loved. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And do not answer fools according to their folly, or you will be a fool yourself. And for those of us who are a little older, gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. Taken by themselves, these sayings lack unity. To orient the listener to the deeper meaning of the text, the Hebrew writers chose to introduce them in the voice of woman wisdom herself. She begins, "To you, O people, I call, and my cry is to all that live. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge instead of gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her." Woman wisdom presents herself as God's partner in creation, saying, "Ages ago I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle in the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he assigned to the sea its limit. Then I was beside him like a master builder, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the human race." Woman wisdom gives the Proverbs something they would otherwise lack. Mere rules of conduct are not good in themselves. They only become good as part of a larger scheme. To qualify as wisdom, the rules must be used with insight and compassion. And a female image of divinity reminds us of this. Today, we celebrate Mother's Day. Like woman wisdom, Mother is a partner in creation. She and her child are of the same flesh and blood. She's there from the beginning, investing her dreams and her substance. And it's from this depth of commitment that wisdom is born. Wisdom binds human powers to the nurturing of human relationships and a basic concern for human well-being. Mother's Day began as an expression of woman wisdom in society through the work of Julia Ward Howe. She was an abolitionist, a poet, and an advocate for women's right to vote. And she's well known for writing the words of the battle hymn of the Republic. But although Julia Ward Howe supported the Union cause in the war, she was later to become an ardent pacifist. 5 years after the end of the Civil War, the Franco-Prussian War broke out in Europe. Many people thought that it was a senseless conflict. Julia Ward Howe went to Europe to deliver a manifesto at peace conferences in London and Paris. But because she was a woman, the conference organizers would not allow her to speak. So Julia Ward Howe came up with a new idea, an International Mother's Day, She undertook to call all mothers out of their homes and into the public square to advocate for peace. On June 2nd, 1870, she issued this proclamation. Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate their dead. Let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace. This first Mother's Day was observed for several years in major American cities and also abroad. It was superseded by another Mother's Day, which also had its roots in the Civil War. Anna Reeves Jarvis of Grafton, Virginia, called for a Mother's Workday to promote better sanitary conditions in wartime. Years later, her daughter, Anna Jarvis, made it her life's project to promote a national Mother's Day to honor all mothers, living and dead. In 1914, Congress passed a joint resolution to establish the national holiday, and President Woodrow Wilson signed it into law. But the resolution focused on the role of women in the household, not in civil society. And the holiday soon was and reduced to cards and flowers. Anna Jarvis later expressed her disappointment, saying, "I wanted it to be a day of sentiment, not of profit." Now, sentiment and even sentimentality can be a good thing. It's so easy to go about our business forgetting to honor the great gifts of life, including the people who gave us our lives in the first place, our mothers. Mother's Day provides a convenient button for us to push once a year to activate a pre-configured set of meanings and the feelings that go with them. But it's just as important to remember the original focus of Mother's Day, women as the voice of reason in the public square in times of madness. Mother's Day is an occasion to remember Julia Ward Howe and her challenge against senseless war. It's also an occasion to honor the many women reformers of that era, some of whom were mothers and some who were not. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Dorothea Dix, Lucy Stone, Clara Barton, Jane Addams, Margaret Fuller, to name just a few. Through the voices of these women, and many more since, woman wisdom has made herself heard. Woman wisdom would insist on grounding all human conduct, including the decision to go to war or to pursue the path of peace, on fundamental human concerns. In the early 20th century, Käthe Kollwitz, the German artist, gave voice to woman wisdom in her writing and printmaking. She depicted the tragic efforts of war and the poverty that resulted from it on ordinary people. After Kollwitz lost her son, Peter, in the First World War, she often treated the theme of mother and child in her artwork. The mothers in these pictures often resemble Kollwitz herself. A fine example is given in this picture titled, "Seeds for the Planting Shall Not Be Ground Up." In response to Kollwitz and her public expressions against war, the authorities forced her to resign from her post as the director of graphic arts at the Prussian Academy. She had been the first woman artist to hold a teaching position in that prestigious school. Later on, the Nazis put Kollwitz on their list of degenerate artists, which included all the prominent German expressionists. These artists were barred from exhibiting their art in public or creating new works. Kollwitz did not live to see the end of the Second World War. She suffered the loss of a grandson in that war, who was also named Peter, after her son who had died in the First World War. But woman wisdom continues to speak powerfully through her work. Woman wisdom speaks not only in demanding peace, but in calling for reconciliation. Consider these words by the Russian poet Yevgeny Yevtushenko. In 1944, he stood at his mother's side as they witnessed 20,000 German soldiers being marched through the streets of Moscow after their defeat at the hands of the Russians. This is what the young poet saw. The pavement swarmed with onlookers, mostly women, Russian women with hands roughened by hard work, lips untouched by lipstick, and with thin, hunched shoulders, which had borne half of the burden of the war. Every one of them must have had a husband or a brother or a son killed by the Germans. They gazed with hatred in the direction from which the column was to appear. At last they saw it. The generals marched at the head, massive chins stuck out, lips folded back in disdain. The women were clenching their fists. The soldiers and the policemen had all they could do to hold them back. All at once, something happened to them. They saw the ordinary German soldiers, thin, unshaven, wearing dirty, blood-stained bandages, hobbling on crutches, or leaning on the shoulders of their comrades. The soldiers walked with their heads down. The street became dead silent. The only sound was the shuffling of boots and the thumping of crutches. Then I saw an elderly woman in broken boots push herself forward and touch a policeman's shoulder, saying, "Let me through." There must have been something about her that made him step aside. She went up to the column, took from her inside her coat something wrapped in a colored handkerchief, and unfolded it. It was a crust of black bread. She pushed it awkwardly into the pocket of a soldier, so exhausted that he was tottering on his feet. And now suddenly, from every side, women were running towards the soldiers, pushing into their hands bread, cigarettes, whatever they had. The soldiers were no longer enemies. They were people. This is the divine nature of wisdom. To cut across boundaries of nationality and to recognize an enemy soldier as a mother's son. To embed morality in compassion and temper moral judgment with fellow feeling and empathy. On this Mother's Day, may we give due attention to the visiting, the flowers, and the phone calls. May we also bring to mind the likes of Julia Ward Howe, Katie Kollwitz, the Russian women, and all women and men who have spoken in the voice of woman wisdom. Let us now proceed to our final reflection in a moment of silence. From week to week and year to year, this time of worship puts a parenthesis of peace around the clamor of our days, clears a space for our intentions, calls us into a fuller awareness of our purpose and who we are becoming. This time of quiet at the heart of our worship draws attention to the rests between the notes in the music of our lives, draws attention to the silence as eloquent as the sounds. As the earth now awakens to seasons of abundance and new growth, as the peace of this gentle morning surrounds us and holds us close, let us open ourselves to receive the stillness from which the silence and the sounds both arise. The mystery is that we are connected, even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in the common life that makes of the many one. And now let's join together in singing our hymn for meditation, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Now it is time for us to extinguish our chalices. Please join with me our words for extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. And now for our closing hymn, number 124, Be That Guide.
Whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife, Lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper, nothing daunts, doubt a friend or taunt a foe. Ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder, trusting good, bitter though the test may be. Through the ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher, faith directs, move beyond the old frontier. Though the fright and fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
May the sun warm you and mists cool you. May the light glow for you and the darkness cherish you. May you be safe at every step until you return. May you carry this blessing in your heart with love as we go in peace.
She's never pulled anybody from a burning building. She's never rocked Central Park to 500,000 fans screaming out her name. She's never hit a shot to win the game. She's never left her footprints on the moon. She's never made a solo hot air balloon ride around the world. No, she's just your everyday average girl, but she's somebody's hero, a hero to her baby with a skinned up knee. A little kiss is all she needs. The keeper of the Cheerios, the voice that brings Snow White to life, bedtime stories every night, and that smile lets her know, she's somebody's hero. Oh, she didn't get a check every week like a 9-to-5er, but she's been a waiter, cook, and a taxi driver for 20 years. They're at home till the day her girl was grown. Giving her love was her life's ambition. But now her baby's moving on and soon she'll be missing her. But not today. Those tears of joy are running down her face. She's somebody's hero, a hero to her daughter on her wedding dress. She gave her wings to leave the nest. It hurts to let her baby go. Down the aisle she walks right by, looks back into her mother's eyes, and that smile lets her know, she's somebody's hero. 30 years have flown right past, at her daughter staring at the photographs of her mother, and she wishes she could be just like that. Oh, but she already is. She's somebody's hero, a hero to her mother in her rocking chair. She runs a brush through her silver hair. the envy of the nursing home. She drops by every afternoon, feeds her mama with a spoon, and that smile lets her know, her mother's smile lets her know, she's somebody's hero.